Hi, Andrew. Hello.
Hiya.
Thanks for giving up your time tonight. I really appreciate you coming to do this. So, for the benefit of the audience,
Sure.
um, just to say, my name is Thomas from Dad's Rock, and with me on the call, I have Andrew, who is a dad who has had a child during lockdown. So, we thought it'd be really good to hear from Andrew and to get some of his thoughts and experiences on what that's been like. Um, so, to start with, hello.
Hiya. How you doing?
Um, how long ago was it when you had your child?
So yeah, Autumn was born on the 11th of April. So it's now the 19th of May. So yeah, she's 6 weeks on Saturday.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
And how was it?
Yeah, like overall, I mean, I had a fairly straightforward kind of birth, fairly straightforward experience, and yeah, I mean, I think it's becoming a parent for the first time is a fairly knackering experience, but yeah, it's been a great sort of 5 6 weeks overall, and I think the sort of lockdown thing has, um, yeah, I mean it's had its pluses in some ways and its negatives in others. So I guess, yeah, a sort of mixed experience, kind of having a baby in a lockdown time, but there isn't really a choice, so you just kind of have to get on with it as much as you can.
And before labour, what was the differences? Do you think there were any differences in like appointments or anything?
Yeah, so we, as I said to you, Thomas, we had a stillbirth last March. So this is our sort of rainbow baby, if you like, for us. So we've had quite an anxious pregnancy, kind of running up to Autumn being born. So we've had probably extra checks. We probably had extra kind of midwifery support that isn't maybe kind of run of the mill. And my wife was sort of, well, I don't know, red pathway or whatever, the kind of riskier pathway because of the stillbirth. So what we noticed, I guess, was first of all we were really anxious that the kind of probably March time, early March, when there was all the concern that the NHS was going to get kind of swamped. We were a bit nervous about what the impact that might have on us and kind of checkups and all that sort of thing. I guess the reality was the main thing that changed really was that I could no longer go into any appointments. So scans and that kind of thing prior to the baby being born, we're all sort of Amy going in on our own and getting scanned. And that, like, that was fine. I guess we were far enough on in the pregnancy for it to be, we'd done it. I'd been in lots of scans prior to this, so it didn't feel like it was a huge impact. However, because of our experience last time rounds, and this with Willow being stillborn, I guess the kind of there was a nervous few weeks at those, the same points that we lost Willow. So it was a bit of a shame that I couldn't be in sort of those scans, I guess. Um,
So,
but
and were
but
you
then
able to go to the hospital for those scans and be outside, or did you just not go into the building?
yeah, so I spent an awful lot of time in Nine Wells car park. Um, yeah, sort of, pacing around anxiously waiting while Amy was in having scans. So yeah, the it sort of was very black and white. I think 17th of March we had an appointment and I was there, had saw the scan, was in the scan, we saw the consultant, and we'd put a kind of plan in place for the birth. And then the lockdown happened in the following, I think Amy had a scan 2 weeks later, and I could no longer go into Nine Wells, into the kind of scanning area or whatever. So, so yeah, I think that's across the board, but certainly in Tayside, it's only the woman, the pregnant person, who can go into the scans and the appointments.
And then as it got closer to actually going into labour, you
Yeah,
were allowed in then.
yeah. So because of Willow, we had a planned C-section. So that's not that typical, I guess. Most people either have or go for a natural birth. I think it's 25% or thereabouts have a C-section planned section. Um, so yeah, what happened in the end, we were sort of aiming for 38 weeks because they didn't want Amy to go full term. But baby was quite big, so they decided at 37 weeks to kind of, in the words of our consultant, bail her out. So yeah, we actually only had 3 or 4 days, I think. She was at an appointment 3 or 4 days before, and they said, right, we'll bring you in on Saturday, that Saturday, for a section. So we had, yeah, planned section on the Saturday morning. So that was a case of turning up at Ninewells. I wasn't quite sure whether I'd be allowed in from the kind of off for that, and I was. So I was in. We had to be at Ninewells at 8 o'clock. We're both allowed into the sort of planned, I don't know, the waiting area, if you like, the area where they sort of prep everything. And then it was a bit of a waiting game just because they did an emergency section in before us. So yeah, we had a couple of hours in the morning and then in for the section. And then I was allowed to be there while Amy was in recovery with the baby. So I think that ended up being sort of 3 or 4 hours in the recovery bit of the hospital. And then when Amy was taken up to the ward, I had to leave at that point.
So when Amy and the baby were in recovery, were you with them then?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I could be in for the actual section as well. So I was in the theatre, which was really magical actually. And yeah, I mean, just like totally bizarre. But yeah, so I saw him being born and then cut the cord and all that kind of thing. And then
you mean you looked across the curtain?
I was allowed. But yeah, it was a bit bizarre. Yeah, because I got kind of caught out with that when the surgeon said to me, "Oh, do you want to see your baby being born?" And I was sort of like, "Oh, I don't know." He was like, "Yeah, you do. You definitely do." So yeah, yeah. So that was quite amazing actually. And then yeah, with the midwife going and sort of cleaning the baby up and meeting Autumn for the first time. So I think Amy she was a bit gutted that she couldn't see the baby being born, and then you know, I don't know, probably the matter of 5 minutes, but for her it felt like a lifetime to go away sorting the baby out.
So when you went into recovery after the surgery, you were there, did you say, for about 3 hours?
Yeah, yeah, it's probably 3 or 4 hours. I think certainly at Ninewells, I got the feeling that they were kind of keeping us longer in recovery, or keeping people longer in recovery, because they knew that that's when the partner could be there. Right. So our midwife was lovely. You know, she was very much like, oh, you know, no rush. You'll spend. Perhaps if it had been really busy, and you know they'd been pressured to get the bed back or whatever, then it might be much quicker, kind of up to the ward. But just the way it was. Yeah, so I was with Amy from we're in hospital from 8 till 4 or something like that. But then yeah, she went up to the ward, and that was hard actually. I had to leave, and Amy was obviously like, just post section for 4 hours, 5 hours post section, so it was quite sore, unable to move very much, and kind of just just lacking a support. Somebody there was kind of for support, I suppose. So yeah, I think she found being on the ward on her own with the baby quite difficult that night.
And how many nights was she there for?
So she was only in the night. She got out the following evening, so she was in. Yeah, I don't know. I think she was out about 7 o'clock the next night. Right. So she was in. She was probably on her own 24 hours, or just over 24 hours. Yeah, I think everybody on the ward's in that same position, right? All the women are there on their own. I think it's. Yeah, Amy said it was just like super noisy. Everybody's on kind of FaceTime and WhatsApp and whatever with their partners, and quite kind of just a different sort of atmosphere, I suppose. And I think it's just things like, you know, there's, for example, our phone ran out of battery, and then it wasn't really until the midwife came back round to check on her, like maybe an hour or two later, that she said, "Oh, would you mind getting me the phone charger?" And then trying to find the phone charger in her bag, and you know, sort of plugging it in and whatever. I mean, it seems really minor, but it's that kind of thing. I think she maybe in retrospect would have thought more through. You know, having a long, you know, a super long charger, for example, so that she could get it and have it next to her in the bed overnight, that sort of thing.
So she had one night in the hospital, and then mum and baby came home.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So I
So
think
then
that.
going to the hospital to pick them up, were you allowed to go into the ward then?
So yeah, you go up to the door. So yeah, like I took the car seat up to the hospital, and then you basically just go up to the ward door and then hand the car seat over, and then the midwife sort of, I guess, helps Amy get the baby into the car seat and get her stuff kind of packed up and whatever, and then yeah, it's like the midwife, Amy and the baby came to the door with all their stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it's a bit bizarre because yeah, you just feel kind of yeah, it's just a little bit bizarre, the whole thing. I think as well the feeling we got was that they're kind of trying to push, or push isn't the right word, but trying to kind of get people out of hospital as quickly as possible.
Right.
You know, if you're not really required to be in hospital, they'll try and just, you know, speed up the discharge. I guess that's only anecdotal. I don't know if that's actually the case, but certainly that's the feeling we got, was that they were trying to kind of, you know, obviously ensure everything's okay, but then also trying to not keep people in longer than they need to be in just now.
Yeah. I guess there is that whole thing of, you know, generally people do better at home as well, don't
Yeah.
they? And they recover better at home as well, is what I've heard, I guess. So
Yeah.
the first few days with baby then, how were they, would you say? And do you think, again, that there was a difference because of lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, I think like for us, I mean, I was a bit. I suppose we were both a bit shell shocked, you know. Like I think partly because of our experience with Willow, we had kind of taken us a long time to get our head around the fact we were actually going to have a baby and actually have a live baby, you know, a baby that was home with us. So I think we partly hadn't really fully done that adjustment in our heads, because of yeah, because you're just expecting everything to go wrong the whole time if you've had a, you know, a miscarriage or stillbirth, I guess. But also I think just because of the lockdown and all that, I think we'd spent quite a lot of time worrying about how that was all going to go, and then it went okay. So then you're like, oh, actually, we're at home with a baby. Right, what do we do, you know? So I think, like, for the first few days, so we had a midwife phoned us the following, so we got home at like 7 o'clock, I think, on the Sunday, and then the midwife phoned us on the Monday and the Tuesday, and then came out to see us on the Wednesday. Whereas I think prior to the lockdown and whatever, COVID, we would have probably had a midwife come see us on the Monday and the Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think in retrospect, we wish we'd had the midwife come see us that Monday and Tuesday, because the baby lost a fair bit of weight the first few days, because Amy's milk hadn't come in because she'd had a section. So we didn't really know that, I guess. We knew the baby was feeding, so we just thought everything was fine. I think if the midwife had come out maybe that first couple of days, we might have got that picked up earlier, and therefore wouldn't have had the weight loss. The baby wouldn't have had the weight loss that she had. I mean, it's all fine now, but it was just a bit stressful, sort of at the following weekends, 5, 6, 7 days in, because the baby had lost a lot of weight, so we are trying to play catch up with expressing.
And was that an option, do you think, when they phoned? Was it an option to say, can you please come out?
Like, yeah, I guess if we'd said, would you mind coming out, or we're worried about, you know, feeding, or we're worried about, you know, they asked about jaundice, for example, and it's, I mean, you couldn't really tell, like, the baby wasn't that jaundiced. We didn't think the baby was that jaundiced, and then the midwife, when she came in on Wednesday, didn't think the baby was jaundiced, but then when we went in, we had to go back in because of the weight loss, back into Nine Wells, they thought the baby was quite jaundiced. So that kind of thing where they sort of are asking, "Oh, how are you doing?" and because you don't really have a reference point, is
Yeah.
you think you're doing all right, or you're just not sure. So probably Amy was saying in retrospect, she might have said, actually it'd be nice for, would you mind coming out? And I think they would have been fine doing that, to be honest. Um, but yeah, I suppose they're just trying to kind of minimise as much as possible contact. Um,
And what's the situation with health visitors then? How, do they phone or do they come out?
yeah, so because of the weight loss thing, we the midwives, we were back into 9 Wells on a Thursday to look at, like, Amy had to start expressing, so we're topping the baby up on top of breastfeeding for a few weeks. So we had a midwife appointment on the Friday and the Saturday to weigh baby, just to check that she was gaining weight at that point, and she was starting to gain weight. So every time the midwife came out and weighed her, she had to speak. She spoke to the paediatric people at 9 Wells, and they would decide if she needed weighed again, kind of thing. So she got weighed again, I think, on the Monday and then the Wednesday, and at that point she'd gained quite a lot of weight. So they said, right, that's fine. You can kind of, to the midwife, that you can kind of sign us off, hand
Hmm.
us over to the health visitor. So I think that's maybe like 2 or 3 days later than what a norm, if everything's absolutely fine post birth, would have been. And then so the health visitor came, and because of the weight thing, she saw us an extra time as well, actually. So she came on the sort of week 2, and then week 3, and then the baby's gained lots of weight now. So um, yeah, we'll see her next week for the 6 weeks checkup next
Right.
Monday. Um, so I think, what did she say to us? I think they're doing all their week 2 and 3 checks, and then I think they're doing 1 or 2 by phone, and then week 6. So there are a couple that, but I think it's like all these things. If there's a problem, they'll come and see you. If there are issues, the support's there. It's just that sometimes you're not always sure if there is an issue because you don't really know what your reference point is. Um, I would say one of the things, actually, I was asking Amy about what advice she would give to people in this, like, that are about to have babies, and she was saying that one of the key things is getting breastfeeding properly established on the ward. And in 9 Wells, it was really busy the night Amy was in, so she felt like the midwives were good in saying, oh yeah, that's fine, you're feeding or whatever. But it wasn't the following day. Our community midwife, because of our experiences with the stillbirth, opted to do a shift in 9 Wells, so she could see Amy. So that was like amazing. And she spent an hour with Amy, kind of going over like the details of how to properly, get the baby to latch, and showing her techniques and different ways of feeding the baby. And that Amy said that was totally invaluable.
Hmm.
Um, so she was saying that if, like, to really try and pin down time with a midwife if possible before you leave hospital. Um,
It's a
you know,
tricky thing, isn't it? Because I remember just wanting to come home, and we've had two children, and the first time round, we were just desperate to get out of the hospital and to come
yeah,
home. And like your wife, both me and my wife regretted how quickly we pushed ourselves, and wished that we'd stayed longer to allow more support to be given in reference to breastfeeding.
yeah,
Do you think then that informal support is harder at the moment?
yeah,
Like,
absolutely. I mean, that's again something we were just talking about. I think one of the thing that we miss most since having the baby is, well, family contact. So we've, like, grandparents haven't met her, and my siblings haven't met her. She's had a cousin being born in the last 3 weeks that we've not met as well. So, like, um like that kind of contact's obviously really important, and we've missed that. But I think kind of another thing that's probably not, the first 6 weeks are probably not the key point, but probably kind of now going forward, is these sort of support groups, like, mothers and toddlers, the kind of book, I forget what they're called, but the book club kind of groups and whatever. Um, like, and Amy, like my wife's not really big on these sort of online WhatsApps and whatever. She wouldn't be somebody that would go on to like a breastfeeding support group and just sort of spill her guts about what's going on in breastfeeding terms. So she's found, like, I think she's on the local one here, but um, I think she said she's kind of missed that, like missing that kind of new mum support, kind
Mm.
of face to face stuff. Um, I think like if there's a problem, there is support there. If it's kind of like if there's a, if you kind of really need something, you can probably find, get a midwife or get the health visitor to come and see you. But it's more like the soft support, the stuff that's kind of nice to have, the kind of networks, that kind of thing. I feel like you kind of miss a little bit with this lockdown.
Yeah. And what do you think for dads? What would you think that would be good for dads to know who are going to go through this, like you?
So I think, I mean, in terms of, I think it's quite relentless. I felt quite helpless actually, in a way, like through the whole thing, because you're kind of not part of. Obviously, it's the mum and the daughter, or the mum and the baby that are the key kind of constituent parts. But it can feel quite difficult to know how to help or support or be there, when, for example, the baby's not latching and you can't really do anything because you can't hold the baby, you can't kind of support. It's not a practical way you can kind of help with that
Mm.
necessarily. So a lot of what as a dad, you're really there to do is support your wife, support your partner, make lots of tea, make lots of toast. I guess finding a rhythm that works for you. So I know of other couples, friends that sort of do shift systems overnight where, husband might take till midnight or one, and then wife or partner might take one till, through the night or whatever. And I guess you just have to find a system that works for you. I kind of do all the nappies basically, and Amy does the feeding, most
Right.
of the time overnight especially. And then in the morning I'll take the baby downstairs, and try and give Amy a couple of hours of straight sleep. And then when I start work, she can then has a baby for the day. One of the advantages of lockdown is the fact I can work from home. So it's not completely, I've had the baby sort of sleeping in my office when Amy's having a shower or whatever. So that's an advantage. But yeah, I think it's just finding a kind of rhythm that works for you, and a sort of, yeah, a kind of way that you know it'll be different for each person in their own relationship. What the dad or what the mum does, but I think it's just, yeah, trying to remember that people, you'll be tired, get stressed, particularly at the moment, right? There's lots of stress, there's lots of anxiety in the world, so you
Mm.
just have to kind of remember your key principles as a couple and get on, support each other.
And have you been able to get out for a walk with baby?
Yeah, we've been quite cautious actually, about, I guess, just about exposure with the baby. So actually, we've not been in any kind of shops. Managed to do like online shopping. We've had Amy's cousin lives locally, and she's been sort of supplying us with milk and bread and things, so it's been great. We have a garden, so we spent a lot of time in the garden, and we've been walking around the village where we live. We've been done quite a bit of walking and things locally, but
Mm.
yeah, I guess we're just a little bit cautious with the newborn, right? And the coronavirus. And also, I guess the other thing I think about is perhaps not necessarily worrying about whether I'm going to get really sick with it, but the fact that if I did get it, for example, then I'm going to have to isolate myself
Yeah.
separate to Amy and the baby, and without having her parents easily, accessible, or family and friends round about us, it'd be a bit of a nightmare trying to kind of parent a child if one of us was sick. So I think those things have all combined to make us quite cautious of being too kind of pragmatic and getting out and about. Um,
And potentially, when lockdown finishes or when lockdown starts to relax, then that feeling might carry on for a little while, eh? Because you don't want to get it.
yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I would never ever really been somebody that would have been particularly anxious about health, or yeah, I guess anxious about this kind of thing in the past. But there is a part of me that does sort of think, I wonder how we will feel about going, for example, to a supermarket. If we can continue to get home delivery, then I'm going to continue to do that as long as I can, really. Or provided you can get it online. And I don't think it's a particularly I think it's partly just because it's also the feeling that being in these environments is a bit uncomfortable at the moment, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
trying to kind of avoid each other, and it's slow, and it's like, you know, you're sort of very regimented in the way you can go around the supermarket or whatever. But it's also just the hassle, I think, of thinking, oh, I've got to, and then have to self isolate, take time off work. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think these are the feelings that will completely leave for a while. Um, Certainly before you're thinking about pregnancy, before Autumn was born, we were really careful. Again, because I thought I don't want to be in a position that if I get this 2 or 3 weeks before, then I'm going to have to isolate and potentially miss the birth of the child.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think again, it wasn't so much concern of the health of it. We weren't so concerned about our health, although obviously the unborn child, there's maybe a limited amount of science there about the impact of it, but it's more just about the kind of isolation and how we would kind of manage with a newborn um, in those circumstances.
What do you think you remember most from this experience, from all of this?
Well, so personally, being in the theatre and seeing the baby being born and having that first sort of hour or two is really magical. Like, just amazing. I think again, partly probably extra magical because we'd had the stillbirth, but I
Mm.
think it's magical regardless. And then I think, I mean, so one of the real plus points of this lockdown is the fact that you can spend a lot of time as a family together and get to know each other and get to know the baby and the rhythm of the baby and the rhythm of having a baby and, you know, sort of living together and you know, working out what, you know, what Autumn likes, what she doesn't like, you know, what, just all the sort of things that probably under normal circumstances you get so busy with
Yeah.
seeing family and friends coming and going. We've had no worries about that, right? No one's come to the door, so that's been kind of like, it's been quite nice in a way. You just know that you don't need to, you know, you don't need to concern ourselves with, oh well, you know, so and so's great auntie's coming or this or that. How are we going to fit, you know, feed in between those people or whatever? I think Amy said that in terms of feeding, it's made a big difference because we just feed. You just feed when the baby's hungry, right? And you don't have to worry about going away and taking the baby out of the way and, or is she, you know, she's not awake, and so and so's not going to see her awake or whatever. There's none of that worry, so it's nice. It's nice from that point of view, quite
Yeah.
peaceful. So yeah, I think that, but I'm certainly feeling like I'm getting to the end of that nice feeling and thinking I would just like to see friends and family again. Particularly grandparents, and particularly because she's changed so much in 6 weeks.
Ah.
Just, you feel like they've missed out a wee bit on a stage.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else we want to say? Anything else you want to say?
No, I don't think so. I mean, so I asked my wife if there's any kind of top tips she would have for anybody going in, particularly women going into hospital under these circumstances. So her top tips were make sure that your bag is well packed. So, like, make sure stuff's accessible so that you know where it is when like your partner's not there. So, you know, make sure you know where your phone charger is. Make sure it's a long phone charger. You know, have some snacks available. She took a fan in, which she said was amazing because it's so hot on the ward. That was like a total lifesaver. A couple of things we've learned, I'd say, is that the sleep suits with the mittens in them are total godsend because those mittens are a nightmare. The ones that go on, so they're the only ones I would ever buy now. And sleep suits with short sleeves are a godsend because the long sleeves are a nightmare to try and get baby's arms in. I found, personally speaking, so the short sleeves ones are much easier, particularly overnight. So yeah, I think there are some of the key things we've learned in the last 6 weeks.
I'm just thinking, Andrew, that when you looked over to see your baby being born, I can
Yeah,
imagine what after what you've gone through, that it must have been a bit scary, that moment of
yeah.
looking
I
over.
think if she hadn't cried straight away, I would have freaked out probably a bit. But as soon as as soon as the surgeon kind of lifted her out, she screamed, and I was like, perfect, because you know that then she's breathing and you're okay, kind of thing. So
So
yeah,
that must have been amazing then to hear that.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I think yeah, I mean we are just chatting about a couple of things that I remember. So when Willow was born, because obviously she's stillbirth, the things you really miss out on is seeing her eyes, you know, seeing into the baby's eyes, being able to, you know, baby kind of clasping around your finger with her hand. So when we were in the theatre, they were the two things that she opened her eyes and Amy saw into her eyes, and she grasped my finger, and so they were like two things that just were magical because it was just like, yeah, it was just a total experience that I think because of what we've been through with Willow, it was just amazing.
Mm.
So yeah, those are the kind of moments that you just think, it's totally precious. And also, I mean, it's funny, like going through a stillbirth. The hardest thing, one of the hardest things we had to do was leave Willow at 9 Wells and leave, you know, leave the hospital with a memory box, right, rather than a baby. And so leaving 9 Wells a year later with a baby in a car seat, uh, you know, like I said to Amy on the way out, I mean, Amy had been awake for like 36 hours, so she was kind of that sort of like slightly dazed way, but I was like, this is just like magical, right? We're walking out with a baby in a car seat, you know. So yeah, it's those sort of like little milestones, and I think every day we kind of try to remind ourselves, like, yeah, you know, yeah, we're tired, yeah, we can't decide if she's decided, well, why is she, you know, fed 12 times today, not like 8 times yesterday, and why she only slept for half an hour this afternoon, like you sort of question these things every day, but at the same time, you look over and you think we've got a baby here, which is just, you know, amazing. And
Mm.
I think, yeah, I mean that I don't think that ever would leave me. You know, that feeling that like it's a miracle, right? You have a baby lying in front of you, so yeah, special.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time.
Not at
We
all.
will stop recording and I'll let you go.
Not at all.
I'll just pause, stop recording. Thank you, and I'll see you later.